Hello and welcome to this Resto Saga classic car restoration buyer's guide for the Land Rover Series 3. I'd originally thought of making this buyer guides for Series Land Rovers, but to be honest, that is a lifetime of study in itself, ranging from the Series 1 80-inch 107 going through the Series 2 into the Series 3 stage 1s, forward controls, lightweights, so many variations. So I'm going to focus on the Series 3 because that's what I know best, and most specifically this is a 1976 Land Rover Series 3 88-inch diesel, and this is the hardtop or commercial body. Regular followers to this channel, and please hit the subscribe button down below, will know this vehicle well, and they'll know that it's just about to undergo restoration. So before I start that, I thought I'd make a buyer's guide on the subject of the Series 3, because I know this is a growing market, and with the upcoming announcement of the new Land Rover Defender, I'm sure the values of these will go up, as they have been over the last couple of years. Now, I know there's two versions of the Series 3. There's the 88-inch, which is this one, the short wheelbase, or the long wheelbase, which is the 109-inch. I will mention the differences between the two, apart from obviously the length, but the buyer's guide does generally cover both. So here we go. I'm going to start off by looking at the bodywork and chassis. So when we think about the bodywork and the chassis, first of all, from a Land Rover and all the series vehicles, the bodywork is aluminium, and when I say aluminium, it's not quite aluminium, it's an aluminium alloy. Originally it started off as Bright, which is a mixture of aluminium and magnesium, although there were some changes over the years. And the bodywork in this is no different. This is aluminium. The main aluminium bits are the wings, the bonnet, the doors, top and bottom, although there are steel frames, the tub, the side panels and the roof. The steel bits, therefore the bits that rust, are the bulkhead and the chassis, which is that bit. So, good thing about an aluminium alloy is that it doesn't rust. The bad bit about it is that where it touches steel, you get something called bimetallic corrosion. And I'm not going to bore you with the intricacies of the chemistry, but what happens if I come in close is you get this flaking, and it just looks like generally a bit nasty. There's a bit more here, a bit more along the bottom of the doors. As I've mentioned, this Land Rover is going to go under restoration, and that is one of the reasons why, to solve that problem once and forever. The Bright or aluminium alloy does not rust, but the steel bits do, and they rust royally. The bulkhead, my goodness, if you got a Series 3 with an original bulkhead that's never been welded, you should probably go and buy a lottery ticket, to be honest. And the same goes for the chassis. I was very fortunate in that my Land Rover, it's been in the family from new, had a brand new chassis fitted well before I got it. You can see more of the chassis underneath. This chassis is galvanised. A galvanised chassis nowadays will cost you about £1,500, £1,500, which given Brexit is probably the same in dollars and euros, to be honest. It's going to cost you more if you need someone to fit it for you, but it can be done without having to disassemble the whole vehicle. There are groups that can lift the body off, engine gearbox, switch into the new chassis, and then put the body back on again, but that's generally beyond the scope of the home mechanic. Bulkheads probably cost you something similar, to be honest, to get a brand new one of these galvanised. I got mine out of a donor vehicle. I bought a second-hand one of these when I restored it the first time 10 years ago, but given the price of these vehicles now, I think buying an entire second vehicle is going to be a bit of a challenge. In terms of paint, obviously mine is not an original colour. I painted mine BMW Black Sapphire Metallic because I was 18 and that was cool. I am no longer 18 and I don't think it's cool anymore, so I want to put it back to the original limestone. The original colours are fairly basic. There's limestone, marine blue, the greens, which varied in names, Maasai red, you name it. Generally, if it's a hard top, the back panel and the roof will be cream and the rest will be the colour. Other things to think of are the body shapes. Like I said, this is a hardtop commercial. There's the pickup body. There is a station wagon, which generally are more expensive. Or there you can get a canvas roof. Within the long wheelbase, you can have the hardtop, the pickup, the station wagon as well, or the canvas. It probably all depends on what you're looking for and what you're prepared to use it for. Like I said, this was an original family heirloom really, and this has been in the on the farm from new, so hardtop was what was most useful. What else to tell you about the bodywork? These strips here are galvanized steel. When I restored it, I painted them silver because I couldn't afford to get them re-galvanized, but that's something I'll be looking at. In the back, there is nothing in this, but station wagons will have seats in the back and windows as well, and some will even have an extra roof panel, which is called a safari roof. So I think that's mostly covered the body and chassis. Moving on to the drivetrain. So when I think about drivetrain, the first thing you think of is the engine. In the Series 3 you had two choices largely. You had the petrol or the diesel, 2.25 litre, and these are 4-cylinder inline. Blocks are fairly similar, to be honest. The way to tell a diesel, it's got a big injection pump hanging off here, whereas in the petrol, this is where the distributor drive is. The diesel will also have a big fuel filter here, whereas the petrol will probably be down there, somewhere behind there, near the fuel pump. Petrols probably seem to command higher prices rather than diesels. The diesels got a bad rep because people think they're slow and not capable of handling today's roads. I do beg to differ. I do use this quite regularly, and yeah, it's not the quickest thing in the world, but it is well over 40 years old, and some of them are a lot older than that, so I think it's fine. Things can go wrong with these. Well, as long as they're looked after, they're actually pretty reliable. The diesels, you're going to want to check your timing, which, well, you'll see in the exhaust smoke, and I'll talk about that in a second. Petrols, all your usual thing, check it's been serviced, points, plugs. Signs of overheating. Series Land Rovers don't really overheat unless there's a massive problem because they're so overcooled due to this massive radiator. Check, I'm not going to lift this off because I've just driven it, but check under here to make sure there's no emulsified oil in the water. You're going to want to see service history, make sure it's been looked after. After the engine comes the gearbox, which obviously I can't really show you, but I'll take you inside to talk about it. Gearbox, 4-speed manual in an H pattern with reverse away and to the front. 4-wheel drive, high and low range. And I have an overdrive, and this is a ferry overdrive. Now, overdrives are a subject in and of themselves, but overdrives will increase the value of the vehicle. Ferry overdrives up until about 10 years ago were the business, but now Rocky Mountain have come on the scene with their overdrive, which is generally regarded as being higher quality with more longevity. So Rocky Mountain overdrive, it's available, grab it. Looking around here then, front axle, back axle, obviously. It's 4-wheel drive, permanently driven to the rear axle. Whenever you put it in 4, the front axle comes in. What are you looking for in axle wear? Whiny diffs, you'll certainly hear that plenty. Not too expensive to put right, although prices are going up in price, or prices are going up. You can think about freewheeling hubs, which are a fairly controversial accessory, but people do believe they reduce your miles per gallon and wear in the front axle. People put Range Rover diffs in. I'm not even going to cover modifications because that is a video in and of itself. Other things in terms of drivetrain, suspension, steering. Suspension is by Leaf Springs all round. It's 17th century technology, but it works. Make sure the vehicle sits straight, as I think mine pretty much does. I do have a slightly saggy rear spring in the back, if you can see. That wheel sits quite well up into the footwell compared to this, or into the wheel well, so that spring is going to have to go off and get recambered. That's not a big job. Brakes, drums all round. Long wheelbase ones have some twin leading shoes. I'm not entirely familiar with the system. This one doesn't have twin leading shoes. Later models also have dual circuits and servos. So the later the Land Rover, obviously the more complicated it gets. And that's generally all there is to talk about drivetrain. If it's looked after, if in the UK you're buying a car with an MOT, generally that's a fairly good sign that it's been looked after. Look for a smoke on startup. Gearbox, you're going to want to go through all the gears, including reverse. Make sure they're all working and not popping out of gear and overrun. This one pops out of gear on second gear overrun, so I'm always concerned about worn synchro meshes, but that's something I'm going to sort out. Next, I'm going to have a look at the interior and fittings. So the interior, excuse the big black hole in there, hopefully the camera will still pick this up. Now, as I've said, this is a hardtop commercial. There's no seats in the back of this. I have a rubber mat in there for sound deadening, because yes, it's noisy. Station wagons will have 2 seats down each side. Long wheelbase station wagons will have a second row of seats and 2 sets on each side, so 3 in the front, 3 in the middle, 4 in the back. There should be a middle seat here, but I've taken it out to put a cubby box. Seats are fairly inexpensive to fix. Exmere Trim do great refinishing sets, so really interiors are pretty Spartan other than the metalwork. My panels I like to think are fairly straight, so you're going to want to make sure nothing's been chopped or changed too much. These panels, roof and sides, are generally fairly easy to come after. I'll take you around to the inside again, this time not talking about gear sticks. In here you should have 3 in the front. These are not standard. I have these cream ones to match the roof and give the inside a bit of a lift, which I really like, but it should be 3 seats across the front. I have 3-point seat belts fitted. Obviously a child seat wasn't invented in 1976, but hey ho. I also have a right off-road sound deadening matting. Well, it's about £300, so if your Land Rover comes with that, something to consider. Everything's very easy to fix in here. Very simple dashboard, speedometer, auxiliary instruments, 3-spoke steering wheel, and a soft-ish dash. It was maybe soft when it came out of the factory, but not anymore in the sun. Things are getting expensive to replace dashboards. They do split in the sun, and some of them have been damaged with cigarettes and so on over the years. Other than that, they're fairly hard to break, so shouldn't be too hard to come by various bits and bobs for them. Not a whole lot to talk about interior. The later Series 3, some of them were county models, so they'll have had door cards. Imagine that, the comfort of a door card. So definitely something to think about if those are all in good shape, because some of that stuff is getting harder and harder to fix. Some of them may also have headlining. This doesn't, but check it's all in good order and it's not collapsing on you. Could be dear enough to fix, really, because it disintegrates whenever you take it apart, but it's certainly very desirable if it's all there. So there you have it, the Land Rover Series 3, long wheelbase and short wheelbase covered. Yeah, I maybe have missed out some bits and bobs. This is a quick buyer's guide, something to arm you up before you go and look at the Land Rover of your dreams. I'm not going to talk about values because they change all the time. You will buy what is best for you. Pickups, they're not all that common really here in the UK. Station wagons command a higher price than these. These is probably the lowest value, being the hard top. You get some with a tailgate and a cat flap, that can be desirable. Like I said, overdrive, freewheeling hubs increase your values, as well as a galvanised chassis and or a galvanised bulkhead. Modifications will generally knock the value unless it's a 200 TDI engine, which again is a subject for another day. So there's no hard and fast rules when it comes to values, but have a long hard think and check it all over for rust. That is your absolute priority. So once again, thank you very much for watching the video, taking the time. I hope it was some use to you. If you want to follow the restoration of this Land Rover, hit the subscribe button down below. I reply to all my comments, and please like the video as well. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you again next week. Bye now.